poet or a political activist or a gay rights activist or a Muslim group. All the community should have the right to use the public space for artistic, religious and political reasons, so long as they respect the rights of others. What's more, these town centre management companies in their strategies have absolutely nothing in their plans to help facilitate local democracy. If you go to the national website of the advisory body to the companies, All-Party Town Centre Management Group, you cannot access their documents which they send to the town management companies unless you are a member. Is this really the democracy we want? On top of this, our Prime Minister sits on this board that is giving the strategic vision for these town management companies. Their website has much vision on the economic side of town centres. It has no vision whatsoever for local democracy and how public space can be used to encourage and protect the democratic rights of the local people. Except that is the management companies are warned not to tamper with Christmas lights as the people like them and they tamper with them at their peril. These companies are mushrooming around the UK and Europe. In America they are causing lots of problems for the local people in the issue of free speech. In America there are often court battles, but the ordinary people lose to the big companies. This is also a global problem too. The Robin Hood Act and the Public Space Act. Public space, especially prime public space in town, city and city centres, is too precious to hand over complete control to business. We need a law called, I suggest, the Robin Hood Act. It will give clear guidelines to town management company partnership as to exactly the powers they have on public land and ensure the democratic freedoms of the people. It will call for clarity, correction, creativity and classical democracy in all public bodies. Public bodies will be required to clearly inform the people when they go into these company deals how this affects the local people's democratic rights, and how they as a public body will ensure the people's democratic rights. Next, the law will call for all public bodies to take full control of any land they have sold or contracted to companies. They will do this on behalf of the local so that the people can enjoy and practice their democratic freedoms. Public bodies will be required to do an audit once a year to show how they use the land creatively and encouraging people in democracy. Have they encouraged all the known community, religious and artistic groups to share the space? They will also be required to supervise that space, interpreting the Human Rights Act from a classical model of democracy as set out by John Stuart Mill in his book Liberty. Europe should do the same and call it the Public Space Act. This should be done, however, with the utmost respect for local businesses and due consideration for the rights of companies. I understand the situation is different in America, but some of these policies need to be implemented in public space concerning democracy and the rights of citizens in America too. Public space and violence. The government has inherited a 4-point plan to deal with terrorism in our lands. Part of that plan is to encourage community cohesion so Islamic jihadists are not able to infiltrate young, disaffected Muslim youths. There are whole departments involved in this. There is a general feeling they don't really know how to solve the problem of homegrown jihadists. But taking back prime public space and having more of a creative use of public space would help strengthen democracy and weaken the jihadist movement. Muslim youth should be encouraged to come to public space, read Muslim poems, share Islamic culture, share the Quran and engage in very vigorous public debate on the political issues of the day. This would make the Muslim youth feel they are part of UK society. This is much better than spying on them and promoting more moderate Muslim leaders to speak on their behalf. If prime public space is not taken back and used, then Muslims will feel isolated. Jihadists will thrive, then other military groups will form in opposition to them. Ownership for public space is vital for national security. Next, the doctrine of infallibility and the tyranny of the many. How we manage this prime public space is of utmost importance. For too long, governments have been tampering with their constitutions, implementing devolution and changing voting systems, but they are playing the fiddle while Rome burns. The sad fact is, vast millions of UK and European people are not interested anymore in the democratic process. This is also with America. They feel unrepresented, marginalised, and have little or no confidence in their leaders. This is because the democracies are run by a secular elite that invented its own brand of democracy, not in accord with the classical model of democracy. They force this on the people with an iron will, crushing any opposition that might challenge it. Certain sections of the community feel empowered by this as it suits them, but many feel squashed or ignored. Because people don't care anymore, apathy sets in. The elite feels all is well because they run the show, but the rotten seeds of decay are there for all who will see. We urgently need to return to some ideas of John Stuart Mill, the doctrine of infallibility and the tyranny of the many. This will bring new life to UK democracy and other nation states that follow our lead. Mill said that no view can claim infallibility, that the majority view needs to keep alive an opposition for its own good because it could possibly be wrong. Also, in the defense of the majority view, it has to win by reason and evidence. He said if the majority view silences position, then its view will become held dogmatically and fall into complacency. What this means is the secular agenda for democracy has to allow for the religious voice to speak, or democracy will decay. This also protects against the tyranny of the many if we allow opposition to our views. Opposition that respects the rights of others and the democratic process. Then if the secular agenda becomes more powerful, or any other agenda, the minority will be protected. If these ideas were applied consistently, we would see a much more united and healthier society than we see now. It is a lack of consistent application to these ideas that would lead to the destruction of our democracies if not corrected. Public space and Islam. If we take these simple ideas and apply them to Islam, then we have some interesting results. Muslims should have full freedom as part of our democratic states. They should not be stigmatized if their women wear the burqa, for example. They should be treated as equal and not controlled by nervous politicians. They should not be made to feel inferior because they hold to ethical or cultural values that are at odds with secular values. They should be encouraged to celebrate their faith and their public arena They should be encouraged to celebrate their faith and enter the public arena in lively, vigorous debate on all political and ethical issues of the time. They should be allowed to do it with pride and dignity. Such an attitude will spark flourishing of scholarly and artistic renaissance, the likes of which we have never seen. They should also be encouraged to exercise their freedoms in prime public space and Christianity. Christians in the UK are beginning to feel under siege. That also goes for Europe and America. They feel that their rights do not matter more. This means in the next 10 years you will have a hollow institutional churches with leaders who are ultra-moderate who do not speak for the majority of the Christian community. Many Christians will start to move into house churches away from the mainline churches that have capitulated to the secular agenda. Many evangelical leaders sense this is going to happen. If tens of thousands of Christians go underground, this will speak the death knell of democracy, for a strong opposing voice has been silenced. More Orthodox Christian leaders need to step up to the mark and enter the public arena and debate the Christian view. They must do it even if the age does not want it. They must do it, and the secular defenders of a democracy need to listen even if the secular disagrees. For their ideas are not infallible. For the secular must defend its ideas by reason and evidence and not dogma. The secular must protect the minority, or its own voice will die by complacency. For a few years now, we Christians have been on the back foot, reacting to situations, taking public bodies to court if they infringe our rights, but feeling we are losing the war. We need a much more proactive view of democracy and rights. We must enter the public arena and fight for a better understanding of democracy than the one that has been fed us, an understanding that truly defends the rights of all. In defending other rights, we ensure our own rights. Part of that proactive strategy is to take back prime public space for all. Some may feel as Christians I have sold out to secularism. No, I hold to all-time Bible-believing Christianity. True democracy can be summed up in this: do unto others as you would have done to you. We also have a theological framework which our